So say you keep writing that list and you get through all those things and all those ambitions and ideas and desires and wants and feelings, at some point you're going to find a theme. And that theme will help you architect something that can encompass all of the needs. All those things are satisfying. Maybe the 50 kids is a desire for belonging and human connection. Maybe you don't need to raise 50 kids for that, right? Maybe the idea of being an astronaut is exploring the unknown and having an adventure, doing something amazing and hard. Well, there's other options for that in this world. And if being an astronaut isn't the most important thing in your life, no matter what, then you can integrate that component of your purpose as you're figuring it out into the purpose as a whole. So you see we have a few new folks. Please comment if you have any questions, feedback, suggestions, requests, and I'll do my best to include them. So the next item on our list is being warm-hearted and loving and not needy or overly sensitive around those who you perceive are unkind. So I kind of included this in the first point and then the relationships point, but just to tie it into this idea of an energetically sensitive person, or as a certain author put it, the highly sensitive person. So if you think of a bell curve, a lot of things in nature and business in the world are bell curves. And there's people who are the least sensitive people and people who are the most sensitive people. Just a distribution, right? If you're the most sensitive person in the world, you're probably in a highly controlled environment. If you're the least sensitive person in the world, you're probably not that empathic. You probably have no emotional intelligence. You might be in jail. You might be able to withstand torture. You just don't sense things. Maybe you're in a coma, depending on what you would say qualifies. So along that continuum, generally people who are psychic, accurately psychic, don't just say it and wildly guess or do cold reading, people who are legitimately psychic, people who are very empathic, people who are very sensitive, fall into this category of highly sensitive person. And what that means is things can affect you in a more significant way, most likely because you're not fully grounded and fully open, and open enough to allow what's in your system to be released, and grounded enough to know what needs to be done. So I'm highly sensitive, and just to show you how I manage that along with my spiritual practices, I have a wall of supplements. And if something affects me in a certain way, I take on a path of self-improvement, and I take a supplement until that path is fully realized to augment what I'm doing. So I have a genetic deficiency from my last test where I don't produce a certain enzyme that leads to nitrous oxide, which your heart needs to function well. So because of that, I take a supplement for that. That's a basic thing. I lift weights, so I take creatine, I take carnitine, I take alpha-lipoic acid, etc., to balance out my system. And if I didn't take those, my sensitivities, I would notice right away if something were off. Right? And because I notice that, I can nourish myself and slow down or reverse the process of aging, have more energy than I had at 19. I'm more, I'm doing more stuff with fitness, I'm doing more stuff with romance, with friends, with business, with life, just feeling better overall than, almost half my life ago. not quite, but almost. Birthday Saturday. Yeah. So if you think about not being sensitive, like being sensitive but not having it overwhelm you, that's really the key point about being too sensitive. I think it's good to be sensitive and knowing what's going on in somebody's heart, somebody's mind, what's going on in your body, down to the muscle. You have that much awareness. But being overwhelmed is your nervous system just can't handle the capacity, and you freak out, or you get triggered, or you have to disappear, or isolate, or cocoon, or escape, or astral project, or meditate, or video game, or whatever, right? And that isn't a healthy thing to do in the long term. It's great to play, be in flow, be immersed, dive in, take breaks, relax, have downtime. But if you immediately need to tune out, or, for some of us, accept or maintain or feel no control over an addictive pattern of something, casting a wide net in order to, stay grounded, say here, right? So the practical side of that is what's going on in your system. How do you balance that? Supplements, neurofeedback, meditation, breath work, healthy diet, etc. But as far as also not being overly sensitive, they're seeing in the spiritual level how everything has its place. As I mentioned, everything is God, everything is Goddess, everything is the all, everything is you, everything is here for a purpose. If you manifested a person or situation that triggered you, even if it's repetitive, maybe you have something to learn. Maybe you need to open in that way. Maybe, as a very good psychic healer once said, it was really tough for me to hear, but I felt like I had to hear it, so I did, is she said, the relationship you're in isn't serving you, and it might break your heart to end it, but you need to break your heart wide open. And I was so triggered from that. I thought, why would I want to break my heart intentionally? And I knew intuitively, and I learned over time, especially in the aftermath of that relationship and the several attempted breakups beforehand. Now that wouldn't happen. To be like, okay, our time is peacefully ended. But that hurts so much to hear. And eventually, through releasing sadness, through learning to cry, as a man in the West, I didn't learn to cry. There's a lot of stigma against crying. I didn't learn how to release sadness. I know release a lot of it through laughter, but I'm able to cry. I'm able to feel sad. I'm able to allow people to see me sad and vulnerable. All that stuff is tough. But if you can allow yourself to be open, that sadness won't stay in you. That anger won't stay in you. If you have to express and release that anger, do it in a healthy way so you don't blow up or you don't feel like you have to medicate it. So, okay, that was a lot of content. I know it's only been 42 minutes. Just take a breath for a second. I'm just going to take a quick sip of water and realize you can go over this stuff at any time. You don't have to master all of it instantly. You can rewatch this video. I've heard you need to re-encounter content 7 to 10 times to master it. So, don't worry about needing to commit to everything I've shared so far. This is meant to be an encyclopedia that you can unpack later. All right. So that being said, if you're overly sensitive, that can be very useful because that can mean you can affect yourself energetically and biochemically in subtle ways. So having some cedarwood oil, for example, your olfactory system is directly connected to your limbic system. This is very calming. This is very grounding. There's a lot of other oils like peppermint and lavender and eucalyptus and lemongrass, which I always think is like the smell of Fruit Loops. It smells so good. That affect you in other ways. If you're more sensitive, you can do things like work with crystals. I have this beautiful big Labradorite, and she's very lovely and charged. This is Alpha Zoo. Kind of changes genders. Right now it's a she. And if you're energetically sensitive, you can tune into and feel crystals, work with their energy, have them in your field, draw that energy into you, and feel nourished. So if you are sensitive, connect with this psychically, through the digital medium or the video you have, and just see what you sense. I'm going to continue with content for those of you who are interested in that, and I'll put this down in just a second. But if you're very sensitive, you can use that to your advantage. If you need a certain type of energy, loving kindness, support, strength, power in your system, actually intuitively, I think I need to keep it up a bit longer, you can call that in, right? If you need a hug because you're having a rough day, you can close your eyes, deeply visualize a hug, call in a spirit guide or a soul, have that deep, rich connection, really feel it. Remember that mirror neurons in your mind are firing and oxytocin and serotonin is being released. Just marinate on that for a good minute, and there's your hug, right?